Welcome to the debrief. I'm Nancy and he's Scott. And today we are diving a bit deeper into the behind the scenes of the granny killers, Olga and Helen. They are the ones that murdered for the insurance money. How
Oh,
can you
they're
forget them, Scott?
diabolical. Those two, it's strange enough to find somebody who's a murderer, who's a female, who's older, and then you found two of them. That's
A-
incredible.
and the planning and plotting for insurance money, that is unique. It's not just
Yes.
going off and emotionally like snapping and killing someone or something. No, 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 no.
This is why scammers are such special people. They're sociopaths. They spend years doing this. They're not just like willy-nilly shooting into a crowd. They're like
No.
really into it. They're like plotting. They are fattening up their slaughter before they get to them. I mean, that's really, really dark.
Yes, and these women took decades, so it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But first, before we get into Olga and Helen, I want to ask you for a little bit of help. Help us keep this show on the air consistently for you by hitting the like button, subscribe, share, anything you can do to help us. It's especially helpful if you go over to YouTube right now, if you're listening to us, and click subscribe over there. You can see our beautiful faces. Although I'm a little blemished up today, I have to say,
I
Nancy. I have a
noticed
little
that.
eye infection going on.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I didn't want to put on my pirate patch, so you're
That's
going to have to endure it.
next time. If it gets worse, he'll be sporting the pirate patch later
That's
on
right.
for
It
the
should be
next
better
episode.
by our next show.
You can also follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at The Slippery Pod. So head on over there and watch our clips, subscribe, do whatever you do over there.
Yeah, you can
I
find
forget.
us at theslippery.com, and you can also send us submissions for story ideas at theslipperypod@gmail.com.
We've got something exciting for you. For the next 30 days, we are giving away exclusive Slippery merch, and entering is easy. There are 2 ways to become eligible. First, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Super easy. Just go to YouTube, type in The Slippery, and hit subscribe. The second way is to share our podcast clips to your Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook story and tag us so we can see it. We'll be selecting winners over the next 30 days to receive exclusive Slippery merch. How easy is that? On with the show. So we need to go back and do a quick recap, I think, just to kind of catch people up on these 2 granny killers because
Yes.
they do not
Yes.
disappoint.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy that they met. They didn't even meet as young women. They met, I guess, in their 40s or early 50s. They were already, older, had families, had, somewhat, I guess,
Well,
had their careers and businesses. This
yeah,
wasn't
I
like,
mean, it's like a midlife crisis on
right. Yeah.
steroids.
What
What
causes
can we
somebody
do
to do
today,
this?
Olga? They were working out at the gym. That's where they met, which is interesting because they were taking care, making, whatever the reason, that's where they
Yeah.
met. And they decided to first hanging around swanky pools, lifting purses and credit cards, and then onward to all types of
Slip and
slip and
falls.
fall,
Yeah.
accident ones, you name it. They use the legal system to get payouts
And
over
then
the
they
years.
graduated to the big time.
And it seems ludicrous to all of you listening that anybody would decide, "Oh, let's switch over to life insurance payouts.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's start
hunt for
killing for money. Yeah.
it's it's crazy." They would befriend homeless men, put them up in an apartment, pay their bills, help them out, get them on their feet. Then they would take out millions of dollars in life insurance policies.
This is really more sinister if you think about it. It's even more sinister than a hitman, right? Because a hitman just accepts an assignment. They're nameless, faceless people,
Yeah,
and
no
they're just hired
connection. Mhm.
mercenaries. They have no connection. These women built connections with it. I mean, they scouted for the perfect marks and then they kept them housed and clothed and fed for 2 years. Like most people, not only women, men and women, would form a bond of, nurturing these people for so long and getting them back on their feet.
And maybe
But
he's like,
not these two.
"Oh, maybe we shouldn't go through with the plan." I mean, it's
Right.
it's crazy.
Maybe they
It's
didn't go through with a couple of plans. Maybe there's some
well, there
surprise that you're
there
gonna
definitely
get
were
me with
some that
today.
got away or they were in their prospects for down the
Yeah.
road. But and then after befriending them and keeping them housed, they would wait a couple years, to not draw attention to themselves. They would then drug the men, drag them into dark alleys, and then run them over, killing them. Police would think it's a tragic hit and run until it all came crashing down when an insurance investigator was asked to take a closer look because it was two $500,000 policies. He goes, let me go take a look, go out to California. And that look prompted detectives to have a conversation as well. And these two women ended up being tied to multiple murders of homeless men.
It always comes down to the greed, right? They got
Yeah.
a little greedy. Had they made the policies for a little bit less or been a little less demanding.
Or less of the policies. We're talking millions in
Yeah.
policies. So
Yeah.
we also touched upon that in the first episode about Helen and her defense team, how they tried to pin everything on her youngest daughter, Keisha.
Mm.
And it's remarkable because Keisha did not receive any of the beneficiary money. Helen did, but they decided during trial that they were going to point the finger at her, and that didn't work. Yeah, that didn't
That's
work.
amazing. Most parents would be like, I'm going to protect my kid at all costs. Helen's like, you're coming down with me. If I'm going down, you're going down.
Yes, yes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some insight into that relationship and I'm not saying that's why she decided to do it, but I think there is a reasoning if I'm Helen, why I'm pointing the fingers at one of my kids. I don't know. But
Interesting. I'm excited to hear that.
You want to know how I could say, why not? No. Helen and Olga got life behind bars, and they are still alive today at 95 for Helen, 93 for Olga, and they are still serving time in prison. So there you go. That's a very quick down and dirty recap of these two. But we also thought it would be fun to not just talk about this case, but afterwards we're going to get into some more Black Widows because it kind of lends itself.
We could create a show on Black Widows or on these types of scams. I think I'm interested to hear what the audience has to say about it. Maybe we'll do a poll that you can go to the website and vote in the poll if you think this is a good idea or not, because I think I know I've got a few. These are off the top of my head in my files that I think are pretty darn good.
They're pretty good. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wait till you hear them.
Okay. So let's talk about this. I'm going to update you because I know you don't know all the behind the scenes on this one, but this volatile relationship between Helen and the youngest daughter. I couldn't include it all in the first episode because it's all goes off on these tangents that aren't necessarily connected. So I was like, let's talk about it here. But I did mention that there were lawsuits between them. And this is what caused this 2-decade-long estrangement between the two of them. Their relationship went south when in 2003, Helen sued Keisha and Keisha's then boyfriend, Steve Taravetsky, in Santa Monica Superior Court. And she sued them for more than $275,000.
Wow. That's a big amount.
I know. And this was after the first murder of Paul, but before the murder of, kind of right around the time they were housing.
So she's in the middle of her murdering phase.
Yes.
She's throwing out lawsuits.
Yes. She's thinking, I got to make a little bit. Paul's money only went so far. So Helen alleged that Keisha had assaulted her and that Keisha and Steve had trespassed on her property. The case was reportedly later dismissed for lack of prosecution, meaning Helen did not successfully pursue it to judgment. So she's, dragging them through court, throwing around allegations. And in the court papers,
Helen didn't show up for court or something?
No, I
think
she just
abandoned it?
Yeah, I think she abandoned it as it got closer to having to show up and having to do stuff. But paperwork was filed. And Helen... And then they countersued. So there's this back and forth. So Helen says, hey, you trespassed. Hey, you're terrible people. This is what you did. And then they denied it all. And in their paperwork that they filed, they said, listen, you threatened to kill Steve. You scratched or keyed his car. You hired a security guard to prevent him from seeing me, meaning Keisha. So these are in her, filings back and forth. And she also says you displayed what they both called 30 years of psychopathic behavior. So this is a a daughter saying, "Look, you've put me through hell. This is what you tried to do to me. This is what you tried to do
Right.
with my boyfriend. How dare you sue me for $275,000?"
Wow.
So there's that first case.
It sounds like their family gatherings could be movies all on their own,
I can't
right?
imagine it. And then the
The
following year,
holidays.
in 2004, Keisha then sued Helen over real estate holdings. And she alleged that Helen had falsely represented herself as Keisha's attorney in fact, essentially claiming power of attorney or authority, and basically started doing property transaction as, signing off as Keisha.
Oh, that's weird.
But none of these cases went anywhere, but it really seemed to add to the years of batting combativeness between the two of them. And of course, all of it culminating with murder cases and the daughters wanting nothing to do with Helen and steering clear of her. So,
Yeah. I'm kind of
um,
siding with the daughter on this because Helen is one of the world's biggest pieces of garbage that I think I've ever heard of.
I know. But here's something interesting. So, another thing we talked about and didn't really dive deeper into was in the first episode, I talked about Keisha being involved with a much older man, befriending him, and him moving out to Santa Monica at one
Right.
point.
I remember that.
Yeah. So this was in 2000. So again, after Paul is killed, but before Kenneth.
In the
And
middle of their murders.
yeah, in the middle of all of this. Now again, she doesn't know what's going on, but Olga and Helen have already done this. So with the help of mom, Keisha ended up so she befriended a man in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Fred Downey, who's 97 years old.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And befriends him, talks, was visiting, would sometimes visit and stay with him. And he had no children. He was also a widower. And everyone in the community knew him because they had owned a private kindergarten. Fred reportedly first struck up a friendship with Keisha's older sister. And then
Okay.
after that, he meets Keisha, they become fast friends, visiting, all of that good stuff. Um, and Fred decides to first sign property over to her and give her power of attorney to help him with stuff.
Wow.
Um, Fred adored her. He called her Bubbles
Huh.
and said, was treating her very much like a granddaughter in this relationship. And Keisha ultimately convinced Fred to move on out to Santa Monica. Helen was just thrilled and very helpful in
Oh, I'm
letting him
sure.
stay in one of the apartments on Ocean Park Boulevard. And, Ocean Park's a beautiful strip. It's a nice area in Santa Monica. And clearly she made room for him. And I wonder if it was one of the apartments that maybe Paul was in because she had room at the inn, Helen.
Right.
And before he left Cape Cod, one of the things he took care of, if he let his niece know, so there was a niece, he let the niece know, hey, I'm prepaying and taking out markers like the graveyard, right? At the graveyard where his wife was buried, he had
Uh
a
huh.
spot for himself, but he also let her know that, hey, these other markers at the cemetery are for Keisha and Helen. These are my friends that I've made, and I'm going to make these arrangements before I leave and head out there. And the niece said that was strange, but she was like, okay, this was up to him what he wanted to do.
Sure.
Um, and at first, Fred was initially really enthusiastic about the move. And once he settled into Santa Monica, he would write to his niece. And his niece noted in court papers that he would write to her saying that it was a mistake leaving Cape Cod and that he really regrets that he did this. And he was quite miserable living there. Records indicate that Helen and Keisha took ownership of Fred's Cape Cod home for merely $1.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So at some point, they convinced him. Keisha got power of attorney. The house was signed over to him. There was a loan taken out against the property for $81,900. Soon after that, roughly another 200,000 was pulled out of the property. So they kind of used it as a bank
Piggy
account, so to
bank. Who
speak. I'm
took it
sure it
out?
was.
Keisha or the mom, Helen?
Uh, Keisha took ownership.
Okay.
So if it's in her name, whether she was asked to take the money out or how that all happened, I don't know. But that's what went on there. Keisha was given full control of his assets. So she was also made executor of Fred's will. granting her authority over everything. So in November of 2000, Fred stepped into traffic on Ocean Park Boulevard and was struck by a car, a Honda Civic.
Mm.
He succumbed to injuries, traumatic head injuries, a month later. And I know what you're thinking, Scott. you're you're wondering, wow, that's a horrible way to go. It sounds maybe a little familiar.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, right?
Easy
It's
to step
alarming.
off a curb. Was either of the women with him when he
Well,
stepped off that curb?
no. So, in contrast to Paul and to Kenneth's deaths, there was a motorist that stayed at the scene. Authorities cleared her of any wrongdoing at the time. Keisha sued the the person responsible, the insurance companies, all of that. And the niece got involved in the lawsuit with that too, trying to wrangle back the holdings of her uncle that is
Right.
now dead. And there ended up being a settlement between Keisha and the niece, was about $100,000 that was split, and that came from some type of money that was paid out. The niece also claimed that Keisha, as the executor, was supposed to take care of all the funeral costs, and she never did. She
Oh,
also
really?
skipped, yeah, she also skipped the memorial, which was held back in Cape Cod,
Yeah.
where she
Well,
said
you
she was
could.
going to come
Yeah.
again. This is my beloved, grandfather like person.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
long way.
yeah, it's a long way.
That I
She
can understand, but taking
really,
$280,000 out of the house does seem a little
well, I mean, but
egregious.
she's the executor, so usually that stuff's all spelled out. Like, hey, you're supposed to pay for the funeral. And
Right.
Fred's relatives also had to cover all the burial costs and the burial debt for these additional markers, graves, whatever you want to call it, that were supposed to be paid as well. There's still no evidence tying them all together, just enough that police really took a long look at it. But during the probe, Keisha's legal counsel stated she was not considered a suspect and that she assisted investigators, gave them any information that they asked for about the mom, about Fred, about anything she knew. And she also testified in front of the grand jury.
So she saw opportunity and took advantage of it, but
That's what I think.
there's no link of her committing any crime of
For
murder or setting
no,
this guy up to die. She just
no, but
maybe was opportunistic.
I think opportunistic. And again, that's my opinion. I think Helen was setting her up with that too, saying, "Oh, bring Fred out. We'll put him up in one of my apartments."
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
I
this
could
was
see that.
after Paul.
I
So
could see them being in cahoots about that. It'd be interesting to hear
or
what
maybe
Keisha
not
has to
telling
say
her.
about that.
Maybe thinking, let's get Fred out here. My daughter will get him out, whether she knows, because she doesn't know what I'm up to, right? She doesn't
Right.
know we killed
Yeah,
Paul.
but if the daughter's the one that inherited the house and was pulling out the money,
Yeah,
you
but
don't pull out $200,000 for
yeah, but
no reason. It's not
Helen,
like pulling out $5,000. Two
but
hundred thousand
Helen could
dollars is
have.
a fortune.
I know, but Helen could have looked at it as, oh, let's get him to get some life insurance policies for Keisha and
Well,
for
did he
me
have any
too.
life insurance
No, they
policies?
didn't.
I'll bet you Helen said, get $80,000 out of his estate so you can pay me rent because he's living in one of my apartments and that's how much rent is. Maybe
Mm,
that's how they washed
maybe I
or
don't know,
transferred the money.
but this was
Because,
all.
by the way, nobody's going to write a life insurance policy on a 97-year-old.
You don't think? Yeah, that's true.
No, there's no way.
Mm. But listen, this just was before they were suing each other back and forth. Um, and then of course they go to court and or Helen goes to trial and she says, "Well, why don't you take a look at my daughter?" And then after all of that, Helen is rotten in jail, rotting away, doing her time, definitely guilty of what she did.
Right.
Threw her daughter under the bus. Keisha takes out a change.org petition in August of 2020 and says, "Hey, Governor Gavin Newsom and then President Donald Trump." And she writes, "Release now 89-year-old grandmother Helen Golay." And she wants her released and into her care, the daughter's care, during COVID to give her a fighting chance not to get sick while during the
Right.
pandemic. And she describes her as mother, grandmother, and friend, and claimed that conditions at the California Institute for Women placed her at grave risk for COVID 19. and she asked to bring Helen home to quarantine with her for the time being until the threat was over.
Mm,
Um, that petition got 63 supporters and went nowhere. But
yeah.
I find it crazy that she, I don't know, that she felt, hey, let's get mom out. I feel bad. Look at the hell she put us through. Look who she killed. She does all this stuff, but let's get her out for COVID.
Yeah, it is a
And
strange move.
it's a strange move. And it's, I mean, I guess it's your mom. Maybe it's just to show the pull and the power Helen had over Keisha the whole time. Didn't happen. Helen is still in prison. She survived COVID. She survived everything. She's 95. I think she made a deal with someone with, as they say, a deal with the devil, maybe, because, like,
Yeah,
man, she
she's
is
like
still
a
going.
cockroach.
She's still going.
She is a
Still
cockroach.
going. So that's a little bit more about the little behind the scenes of Helen and Olga, mostly Helen, but I found that
Mhm.
interesting.
Somebody should definitely do a limited series about that. We talked about that in the last episode. Still stand by that. But we could include this in our own unscripted series about Black Widows. I know you don't like the name Black Widows, but we could do something. Friends with Benefits, I think you mentioned once. That's a clever
Friends with
name.
insurance benefits,
Yeah,
exactly.
insurance benefits. I like that one quite a bit. And so I just wanted to go through the exercise of finding as many stories as we could in just a day or two that would match that. Because anytime you go into a network and say, hey, I've got this great idea for something, they want to know, do you have the content to back it up? So
Mhm.
normally I would go in with, if I'm pitching a series and it's, a regular series like this, it's going to a bunch of episodes, I go in with at least 8, sometimes with 10, so I can fill up an entire season with it. So for this, I think we just got 3 or 4.
With a lot of these Black Widows or these Killing for Insurance, they're involved and you can get multiple episodes out of each one of them. That's what's
Yeah,
kind of
but I'm
cool
not
about
for
them.
milking. I think these are all like 1 hours because I think people, because honestly, in this environment, if it's worth more than an hour, then it's going to a streamer and they're turning it into a doc or a doc series because if it's that good. But a lot of times, I'm not saying that these stories aren't worthy of that. They could be, absolutely.
But they also could just be one episode, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
One meaty episode. Okay.
but yeah, there's an appetite for that too. I mean, investigation discovery has lasted for years and years, with this
Yes.
exact formula, right?
Yep.
All right, so my first one isn't unknown to you, but it is a great story. It is one Tex MacGyver.
Oh,
Tex
yeah.
MacGyver is a pretty high profile attorney, and he was a very high profile attorney back in the mid 2010s, I would say. He was
Mhm.
married to Diane MacGyver. They lived in the Atlanta area. They had a farm outside of town. He had a ranch outside of town. Two different things, farm and ranch, by the way. So they're doing really well. They're on their way back from the farm with a friend, Danny. Danny's a she, a friend of Diane's. Danny's driving. Diane's in the passenger seat. Tex is behind her, and they're driving back to town in the late afternoon. Danny gets off the freeway on an exit that Tex thinks looks a little strange. And, there have been some protesters for some cause or another. Might have been Black Lives Matter, might have been something else. But he's like, I just don't feel comfortable around here. Hey, Diane, pass me my .38 revolver out of the glove box. And so Diane does. And he takes the revolver and he's holding it in his lap. A few minutes later, pop, gun goes off. Bullet goes right through the back of Diane's seat and straight into Diane. Tex is
Convenient.
like, what's that?
Convenient.
Convenient. Tex is
Go,
like, we got to
go
get to the
on.
hospital. Danny says, there's a hospital right over here. I'm going to take us to blah, blah, blah. He goes, no, don't go to that one. That one's no good. Go to this one. That's like another 10 minutes further.
She's still breathing. Go to the one down the street.
Exactly. She's still breathing. We're fine. So he's sitting there, he's trying to explain what happened. Cops question him. He's like, I was asleep and we hit a bump and the gun went off. That's his excuse.
Yes. I remember this one. Yeah.
Diane does get to the hospital, but she doesn't survive. She dies. This accidental shooting, though, isn't so accidental in the cops' eyes because they start going through their lives, and they find out, you know what? Diane was doing a lot better than Tex. Tex's attorney business, legal business, law firm, whatever you want to call it, is not doing so well. In fact, about 5 years earlier in 2011, Tex had gone to his wife, Diane, and asked for a $350,000 loan. And she's a successful business executive, and through one of her businesses, she gives Tex that loan. Well, guess what? The loan came due in 2014.
Can't have that. Follow
And
the
Tex,
money.
well, Tex
Exactly.
didn't pay it. He got asked for an extension. So he got an extension until 2017. Well, here comes 2016 and the trip back from the farm, and Diane dies. So suddenly maybe that loan doesn't get collected, and Diane's vast wealth or fortune, estate, goes to Tex, right? And by the way, Tex as collateral had put up his ranch so that if he
So he
didn't
gets it all.
repay by 2017, the ranch became Diane's property.
Yeah, that's right.
So not only would he owe her $350,000 still, but she would be able to foreclose on his ranch. I don't know what their relationship was like, but it all starts looking a little bit fishy, right? Prosecutors go after Tex, and they take him to court, found him guilty of murder.
But I remember
2018
before any of that.
What's that?
I remember before any of that. If I remember some headlines, they charge him, right? And so before they go to court, he needs an attorney, and he starts selling off all of her stuff.
Obviously, he's not doing well, but yes, he auctions off before there's ever a trial. He immediately, after her death, starts auctioning off items out of their estate. And he says that he has to do it because Diane has promised a lot of people a lot of money in her will. So he raises $186,000 and he says he's using it to pay off different people. So I don't know if there's any record of those people being paid off, but it's not looking good to cops, right? I mean, she's dead. She's barely in the ground, and he's
selling shit. I mean, like
he's having
fur
yard
coats
sales
and purses and all her stuff to
this wasn't
supposedly pay others. But he also needs an attorney and needs money for that too.
Yeah. So estate sale through the roof. $186,000 is not bad from a yard sale, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decent amount.
Yeah, she had a lot of stuff. If I remember reading those headlines, it was like I said, fur coats, lots of jewelry, lots of assets like that.
He's found guilty by a jury in 2018. He got life with the possibility of parole, but he appealed. And in 2020, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled that the judge in his case should have offered the jury the chance to convict him of involuntary manslaughter, and he didn't. And so his conviction is thrown out. In 2024, Tex accepted a plea deal for a lesser charge. And as part of that plea deal, he was sentenced, I believe, to 8 years, maybe it was 7 years in prison with 8 years of probation, or vice versa, 7 and 8, 8 and 7. And that meant that he would be out 2025. And he did. He got out in January of 2025. Luckily, though, under Georgia's Slayer statute, Tex was not able to collect on any of that insurance money. He didn't receive a dime from her estate, besides what he already had, skimmed off of the yard sale and given away, allegedly.
Exactly.
But her $1 million estate went to first cousins of hers and their kids. So they didn't have any kids. It just went to some. Could you imagine that? These cousins, holy hell, it's like, hey, we've got $1 million we want to split up between you and your kids.
That's what they could actually salvage out of the estate after he got whatever he could out of it too.
Yeah.
Or at least,
I mean, there's a big house, there's a farm, there's a ranch. I think his ranch sold for $1 million at some point in this whole process. And that was his, minus the $350,000 mortgage, I guess, that Diane had against him.
I don't know. Did he have to pay on that? We don't know.
I wonder. But Tex is a great story. That would fill up an hour very easily. So that's
And
my
ladies,
first one.
he's probably single.
Yeah. Well, he's probably half broke now. He might have had something squirreled away.
What a piece of shit. I mean, this
Tex is
guy,
probably in his mid-70s.
yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. He got lucky in the courts to actually get out sooner rather than later.
It's
And
not a foolproof way to kill somebody, though. A bullet
no,
through a seat into somebody. I mean, you got to kind of get a
well, it's
little lucky.
desperation, right? He's sitting there
Yeah.
thinking, what can I do with this? Wasn't he involved with the other woman? Am I speaking out of
He
turn?
was
I
not.
kind of he
No,
was
he was
not.
not
Okay.
involved with Danny.
Okay.
He tried to influence her.
Yes,
I've
that's what
spoken
it
with
was.
Danny. I've had several conversations with Danny. We almost did a separate project together a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She's very sick at the time, battling cancer, I believe, but she was not involved with Tex in any way. She felt horrible about the whole thing. She was caught off guard. I mean, she's driving a car and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like a gun
Damn.
goes off and she
Yeah.
has no idea. And she's got this guy directing her away from the nearest hospital to another one. She's just stunned. She thinks it's an accident and then finds out that it's murder.
Yep. Yeah. No,
So,
that story's crazy. I think also because of the setting of it with the ranches and his name is Tex.
yeah.
That all adds to the intrigue, I think.
Yeah. Poor
Yep.
Diane MacGyver. Okay. So your turn. What do you
Oh,
got?
my turn. So Colleen Harris. Colleen Harris is married to Bob Harris. They knew each other as teenagers. They both went on with their lives. They reconnected back in like 1990 and they got married. They quietly divorced for about a year or so that Colleen could collect survivor benefits that were connected to another husband of hers that because if she was remarried, she couldn't collect on this. And as
Oh,
much as that
crafty.
seems like a little, crafty and what have you, we fast forward, they're happily married. They they are the belle of the ball. They're going to all these community fundraisers and events where they get dressed up and marriage is going well. And Bob ends up meeting a younger woman in his job where he worked. He did conservation work over in Mongolia. Colleen gets wind that Bob meets this much younger woman. So I think Colleen's imagination took the best of her. And when he got back from Mongolia, they got in a big fight and they had separated. And this was a volatile relationship of, oh, should we get back together? Should we not? Bob spoke a lot with his children down in Southern California and another one up kind of in the area up there and would say, "Oh, we're going through a rough patch. I'm going to stay at the cabin for a little while, but, eventually this will work out and I'm giving her space," that type of thing. Next thing you know, Bob shoots himself, looks like a suicide. He's laying in bed. But when they take a closer look, they realize the gun wound was from behind his head and it was a 12 gauge shotgun. Eventually, the
Tough
idea
to
that
get that behind your head.
yeah, to get that behind your head. Colleen wasn't there. She had called her attorney to go check on him. They find him in bed. Police come. As they look at everything, they realize, okay, the gunshot wound's not in the right place. This seems a little
Mhm.
crazy. Colleen kept changing her story. She kept saying she was in a fog. She couldn't remember things. And that Bob had the gun and then he didn't have the gun. And then they were fighting. And then it was a struggle and that he was abusive. And then, oh, it's all coming back to her. And
Right.
this whole
Lots of red flags here. Once you have an excuse, then you're like then you're going with a different alibi. I mean, cops, that like screams,
yeah. Yeah.
you
And
know,
so
murder,
w-
murder.
well, well, here's the thing. The other thing, Colleen, I don't want to say because she didn't have this going for her, but what had happened years prior is that husband, so Bob was husband number 3. Husband number 2, Jim Batten, Colleen also shot and killed in his bed.
Ding, 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 ding.
But that was found, she was found not guilty. She claimed that the second husband, Jim, was abusive and had assaulted her daughter, his stepdaughter. And so it was found then that she acted in self-defense.
He came after her or
He
something.
came after her, he was abusive, whatever the case may be. That husband number 2, she had also shot and killed in this not the same house, but the house next door. She had owned both
Wow.
houses were
Next
owned.
door.
Yeah.
Granny's got a gun and she's killing people on whatever block they were.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So they look at that and they go, well, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's back this up a second and take a better look at Bob because they got husband number 2 dead.
Sure.
So they do. And they realize things aren't adding up. They check where her car was. She called for a AAA. Oh, another AAA tow got her, just like Helen in the
Mm.
Grannies. She called AAA and had like a flat tire or something wrong. So she wanted an alibi of why when Bob had been shot, and so she set it up via AAA. That
Oh.
didn't pan out. They were able to show that that's not when it happened, and it ended up that they found her guilty of murder of Bob Harris, husband number 3. They did go back and look at husband number 1 because husband number 1 had died younger as well, but he had died of cancer, and so as
Mm.
far as they know, there was no shenanigans in husband number 1. Number 2, they never went back to try her again for that, but not quite looking like maybe
So
that's
Bob was
actually
a
what went on.
jealousy kill, and number 2, we don't know what that motive was. Maybe
Uh,
financial,
well, it
maybe
was
just wanted out of
financial,
the
I'm sure,
marriage.
because she got the house
Yeah.
and, got money and, a bunch of stuff off of that.
Yeah.
Um,
People kill for really dumb amounts of
dumb,
money.
dumb things, yeah. I think she just didn't instead of getting a divorce, that was not gonna happen. She was gonna just get rid of him and get the money and whatever she could inherit. I remember going through her diary, and I took screenshots of everything, and I was looking at it recently, but she was 100% setting up both of these husbands. Like, she spells out all kinds of detail. "Oh, I came home tonight and this happened and he went into a jealous rage." And, and
Oh,
she's completely like laying out everything that took place,
right.
or orchestrating it to look like they
Right.
got mad or
Her
they took the
laundry
lead.
list of reasons for why
Yeah.
they would, need their lives ended via
Yeah.
a violent struggle.
Oh, yeah. And then another thing that was in there, which I found fascinating, there was court papers of when her mother died. And in it, she goes over to the mom's dying, not well, and the woman had subsequent heart attacks leading up to this situation. And Colleen tells the responders, "Oh, um, we couldn't find her heart medication, and she told me she didn't want to take anything because she would rather not suffer." Anyway, she basically admits to withholding mom's medication because they found it in her purse that she had it and decided not to give it to the mom. She
Wow.
was never charged with that. She inherited a bunch of money in that aspect. So Colleen is sitting in prison, charged with the murder of Bob.
All right. Your time's up.
And there's more.
You only get
There's
5
more of
minutes.
her.
That's a 10-minute pitch. You only get 5.
I
No
just know
more
there's I
stories.
can't I'm gonna look back into that one. That's a great one.
All right. Next one. Another guy, a woman. I'm going with the woman this time. I'll finish with the guy. 69-year-old housekeeper named Anita Fox. She's what's known as an English traveler.
Mm,
English travelers get seasonal jobs in the north during the summer and the south during the winter. They, go where the sun is shining. She was in Colleyville, Texas at this time, and she was cleaning this very well-to-do, couple's house. Another employee comes over to this big mansion and finds Anita stabbed to death in the foyer. Stab wounds everywhere. It's a gruesome
mm,
scene. Blood spatter all over the place. Anita didn't have a ton of money. She lived in a trailer. English travelers, they don't, they're not living in the Ritz.
mm.
She's living in a mobile home park across town.
Okay.
Uh, Maintained a very quiet existence. She had 3 kids that were kind of in the area, but traveled a little bit too. 2 daughters and a son. And it was common in the traveler community to take out insurance policies on each other. And they did this because it's kind of an investment in that world. You take
Mhm.
out a $2 million insurance policy on your mom and you pay it and you pay those premiums. And when she turns 85 and passes away, you rake in 2 million bucks and you've paid probably $100,000 in premiums.
So they use it as a tool, investment tool.
It's an investment tool. It's a very lo-fi investment tool, and it's very common. Anita's kids are called in for questioning. She wasn't getting along with one of the kids, one of the daughters, but she has an alibi. So they go to the next daughter, and the next daughter says, "We've got a really loving relationship. My husband, Mark, and I love her." Her name's Virginia, by the way. And, there's nothing but great memories between us. On his way out of the police station, Mark turns around and says, "By the way, I didn't say the whole truth in there. I do have life insurance policies on her. I've got a whopper of a life insurance policy on her. So cops start looking into that life insurance policy. He's got between $4.5 and $5 million of life insurance money on her, but he's got an alibi. So they know he's not good for it. However, they find out he couldn't afford all of the policies that he's doing. It's like over $2,800 a month that he's paying in policies on mother-in-law. So he sells one off. He brokers it out. So it's like me coming to you and say, hey, do you want to insure my parents, for a stake in their life? So he does that.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes. Well, you're not supposed to, I don't think.
Probably not.
And by the way, Anita had no idea there were all these extra policies. She was aware that there was a policy on her, but she didn't know about the additional policies. And she sure as hell doesn't know that he sold
off
interest in one of the policies to Irish travelers, not the English travelers, but Irish travelers, otherwise known as gypsies. I said it. That's what they're referred to. Send your letters elsewhere. These Irish travelers, Gerard and Paul Gorman are brothers. They buy the policy. Well, Gerard, otherwise known as Fat Joe or Big Joe, same thing.
Jesus.
He did not.
Right there. Just starting with the names.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one, right? And he can't make the payments anymore. He's getting tired. He's like, I thought this lady was getting old. She was going to die soon. She's like, doing great. We need to do something about this. So he calls his son. His son brings him over to the house. He says he's got a paint job over there, according to the son. He goes in with an orange bucket, comes out. They leave. Cops track down his truck because a neighbor or somebody saw the truck out there. So they question the son. Son admits it. He said, yeah, I took my dad over there. He said he had a paint job. And I waited for him
took him over
outside.
where?
To the house where Anita was working. Sorry, I left that part out.
Yep.
So yeah, my dad said he had a paint job over at this neighborhood in Colleyville. Happened to be where Anita was working. He goes in the house, comes out a few minutes later, gets back in the truck. They take off. So cops question the son. They pick up the truck. They know whose truck it is. They pick up the son. He tells them, my dad went over there, blah, blah, blah. They track down dad. Big Joe has died of a heart attack. Somebody needed a life insurance policy on Joe.
Oh.
So Joe's dead, but Joe did kill Anita. Stabbed her multiple times. They can't prosecute him, but they prosecuted the son for conspiracy to commit murder because he dropped him off. He took him there, and I guess they had enough of an inkling that it was pre-planned maybe. And they did, by the way, also, they didn't arrest Virginia and Mark, but they didn't pay him out either. In fact, Anita's only son, her youngest kid, Al, got the entire settlement, and he also won a $166 million judgment against his sister and brother.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, that's really that's a lot of layers of insurance. So it's shocking. I wonder, I mean, are they regular life insurance? Like we learned from Helen and Olga, like you have to take the policies out. Like you have to have, I guess if it's your mom or as long as they know about it. So she probably knew about the one. Huh.
Well, and they got an insurance agent that specializes in traveler life insurance policies, which basically means they got an insurance agent who's half a criminal, or a whole criminal. Anyhow, I digress. I'm pushing on to my final one. This is the story of Carl Carlson. And if you would have met Carl back in the 2000s, you would have sworn he was the unluckiest guy you'd ever met. Listen to this list of tragedies, Nancy. Try and follow along because there are a lot of them.
Okay.
1991, house fire in California, Calaveras County, to be exact. Whole structure is ablaze, this whole house. Carl's able to save his 3 young children, but he can't get to his 30-year-old wife, Christina. She dies in the house fire. Carl gets remarried to Cindy and is living in Seneca County, New York in 2002, so a decade later. When his barn catches on fire, he loses 3 Belgian draft horses. Don't ask me what they look like. I have no idea what a Belgian draft horse looks like.
They're probably big, fluffy Budweiser-looking horses.
Like a Clydesdale or something.
Yeah.
That's what came to my mind too.
Yeah.
His wife, Cindy, remembers Carl being kind of calm. He got out of bed and he went to the window. He's like, oh my God, the barn's on fire. And she said he kind of made a half-assed effort of like getting into the barn, but it had big steel doors. And so it was very hot and he couldn't get it open. And the 3 horses died.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
it's tragic. Carl seems like a normal dad through the years, but he's got a very strained relationship with his son. He's got 3 kids, remember, from his first wife who died in the fire. And his son Levi really struggled with his mom's passing. In fact, neighbors up in New York said that, he'd spend a lot of time over their house because he felt so uncomfortable at home. His parents thought he was a rebel, but he was struggling. He heard his mom screaming in that fire to get out and never understood why his dad didn't get her out. He's like, he could have saved her. It always bugged him. So he finally breaks free of dad. He's always been wanting dad's approval, never got it. He gets a decent job, gets married, has 2 kids of his own, but he and his wife split up. He's now getting a new job, and the relationship between his dad has improved so much so that he's even listed dad as an emergency contact and a beneficiary on his new life insurance policy at his new job. So in 2008, Levi is working on a truck, his dad's truck, I believe, in his dad's garage. And mom and dad come home, Cindy and, Cindy's a stepmom, but Cindy and Carl come home. Carl goes out to the garage to see if he can help Levi. 5 minutes later, not even 5 minutes, he comes running back to the house. He's banging on the window to Cindy, call for help, call for help. The truck fell on Levi. You got to call for help. They go out there. The 911 call was horrible. The operator's like, I want you to start CPR. She's like, his chest is crushed. And Carl actually sounds frantic in the call as well. In the background, you can hear him screaming. But the car had fallen off the jack. The car crushed Levi's chest. Instead of jacking the car back up, though, Carl went to the house asking for her to call for help, where like the first instinct would have been like, jack the car back up. Try and get it off your kid. Try and do anything to save your kid.
Yeah, well, everyone reacts differently.
This is true. Some people panic. Some people have, they have that, rescuer type of DNA running through their body, coursing through their veins. Cindy wasn't buying it. Not buying it. She does not think that Carl did as much as he should have done to save his son Levi. She feels horrible. She works with cops and she wears a wire. Yay, Cindy. Tells him the marriage can be saved if he just comes clean about the whole Levi incident, because otherwise she's leaving him. And so he admits on her little wire that he set the truck on the jack and asked Levi to make repairs. And he acknowledged that the truck was so wobbly. But he stopped short of admitting that he did it intentionally. He said the plan was never for it to be, fall on him. But that kind of like runs contrary, right? If there is a plan, the plan certainly isn't for Levi to survive.
Well, it's also not to just know that something's wobbly.
Right.
It's like,
so he also, when cops questioned him and they pressed him hard, he also admits that he opened the door to the truck and he felt bad about it. And I shouldn't have done it now that I think about it, but I leaned in because he needed me to like maneuver the stick shift or whatever and the linkage, and it fell.
And that made the whole thing
I didn't
fall.
know what to do. And I just ran and could you have jacked it up? Yeah, I could have, but I didn't know what to do. I just went. They didn't buy it. Neither do I, by the way. Listen to this laundry list of insurance payouts that Carl Carlson.
So he obviously got paid for the first wife.
$200,000 for Christina. $115,000 for the barn fire that killed the 3 horses. $700,000 for Levi that he got from his new job. $10,000 for a car fire that burned up. The car burned up in his driveway in between all this stuff. And then listen to this to-do list. Each of his granddaughters, Levi's little girls, were insured for $350,000 by Carl, and his wife, Tina, She had a bounty on her head. The life insurance policy got on her $1.2 million. $1 million more for Tina than Christina had. So maybe he learned his lesson. So Carl Carlson is a real bad guy. He's still in prison, but he is a Black Widow, 100%.
Well, and your own kid too. So you had the first wife, didn't get to the other wife later.
He was going to do the grandkids. Grandchildren. He was going to do another wife.
Ay. Oh,
yes, there are people out there like this. So I think we have a show. I think that there are enough stories. This was cursory. I'm telling you, when I say I spent 24 hours looking, that's it. Like these are at the top. I didn't even do a Google search on this.
No, and we don't even need, like I told you, there's Poison Pudding, which is Tammy Duval.
Pudding, Pam Hupp.
Forget that. What about Alligator Mike? That we did that story where
Alligator Mike. That was passion, but that's good. Yeah, there are a lot.
Well, that was all insurance money, and she ran off with his best friend, the insurance salesman.
Listen, people, we know we say scams, scandals, and schemes, but we're no one-trick ponies here. We can give you murders. We can give you everything. Anyhow, that's it. That's all.
Well, there's always a scheme behind them. That's the thing.
Schemes cover so many stories. So. Anyhow, we can procure this list. We can get it over to our crack development team that's working on television projects all the time here.
Yes.
That's us. This is DIY, by the way, as we've mentioned. So, all right.
But they're endless. Unfortunately, they're endless.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's a wrap for this episode. We'll be back next week. I believe we'll be back next week. I'm almost positive. It might be a dark week. We have one more dark week coming up before Labor Day or during Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's next week, forgive us. But if it's not, double check because we might be on. You never know.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
We're trying. We're trying to be on all the time.
I know. Doing our best. It's hard with just two of us knuckleheads doing this. All right.
So that's it for the Black Widows, and no more Helen and Olga. We're done with them.
We're done. All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us.
The Slippery is recorded in and around Los Angeles, California.
The show is produced by us, and it's edited by Brian Gallardo.
Special thanks to Jack Eldridge, Leslie Lindsay, Kellyanne Martin, and Sam Syret.
Since you made it this far, you probably like The Slippery.
Why not let all of your friends know? Share our episodes, write a review, click the like button, do whatever you can. Please.
We are all over your social media. Please join our community at The Slippery Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Go ahead and slip into our DMs.
Over on YouTube, we're at The Slippery, and you can find all of our episodes on our website, theslippery.com.
Use our email address for all questions, inquiries, and tips. theslipperypod@gmail.com.
Last but not least, if you want to advertise on this show, go to theslippery.com and click on our Buy Me a Coffee button and make us an offer. Your ad will either get on air or you'll get a full refund. Don't believe us? Try it and find out.